All right, Periphery has some new music out. Let's check out the mix. Sounds pretty awesome so far. I mean, it obviously sounds killer right off the bat. Sounds absolutely huge. This was mixed by the one and only Nolly, Getgood. Amazing mixer, amazing engineer. It's definitely got his classic drum sound. The snare definitely sounds like one of his. The crazy thing is he said there was no snare sample on this song. I love how dynamic that intro feels. Pretty dense mix. The snare cuts through amazingly. Listen to how grindy that bass gets there in this breakdown. If we back it up, I'm not sure if maybe he's changed the EQ or maybe the distortion balance of the bass there. You can hear that grindiness. Let me pull up an EQ and see if I can find where that is. Yeah, that 1K, 1.5K grind in the bass. Absolutely love that. So this is a pretty loud master. It's absolutely pins, like you can see, which is fine. There's no surprise. That's the genre. I think it sounds great. The awesome thing is how well the snare cuts through and still sounds like it has tons and tons of attack, even though, like, if you watch the meters here, when the snare hits, like, there's nowhere else to go for the meters, but it still sounds like it's a huge transient cutting through. Not easy to do. I think the only way to do this is a lot of saturation, maybe some distortion, maybe some parallel processing going on, and definitely clipping, whether that's happening on the individual tracks or the drum bus in the mix or at the mastering stage. Probably both. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but there's no way to get that kind of loudness and still have that kind of attack on the drums without clipping. I'll link a video down below here if you want to learn more about how that works. I think this is a solid mix. I mean, it's like it's almost perfect. Like it's so well balanced. It sounds very huge. I'm interested in checking out how one of their older records sounds in comparison. Let's check the last release here. It's pretty similar. So they're very similar. This one, I think, sounds a little bit more modern. I mean, there's only a couple years difference between these, but if you listen to a lot of the top metal tracks that are out there right now, it's a little more of an extended, kind of brighter, I don't know how to describe the top end, almost a little like crispier, and it's maybe a little more scooped in the mid-range compared to a lot of metal records a few years ago. And I think you can hear that difference here in this mix, and I think it sounds great. Vocals are nailed in terms of the sweet spot between having enough brightness where it sounds kind of like a modern pop vocal, and it's just got just enough of that edge on the S's, right? Like they're pretty bright, as you can hear. I think that's a little bit of a challenge for mixers sometimes is to find that sweet spot with the S's, because you need to have them bright enough so that it sounds like a very present upfront vocal, but then you can very easily go over the edge where those S's are just kind of like ice picks in your ears. And he definitely got it right in the sweet spot here, I would say. Love how those stereo vocals are really, really loud out inside. I'm burning like wildfire. I've noticed that the kick is pretty mellow, you know? It could be brighter, I think. It could have a little more top-end attack. I'm not saying I disagree with the choice he made here. Again, I think the mix sounds awesome, but, you know, there was definitely room to get brighter, and it's interesting choice here to keep it a little pushed back, a little more mellow, but it does keep it pretty listenable, and it keeps the drum sounding very natural. The toms are also like pretty loud, and they sound so real. Like there's definitely no trickery going on with those. I'm super interested in what he's doing for the bleed with the drums, because like I said, he told me there was no sample on the snare here, and then the toms too, they sound very natural, but you don't really hear that classic kind of like opening up an extra cymbal volume when the snare hits or when the tom hits. So it's really well controlled in that sense. So here I stand like a marionette, lost slave, the thoughts are like a weight on my chest. That appetite for either fruit or sex with double legends and you put the strings on my legs, I put the rope on my neck. You put the strings on my legs. Nice dynamics there on the drums. If that was just all replaced, like some people do these days, with just a machine gun snare sample on that, it would sound horrible. Something else I kind of love in this mix is the low ends. The low mids are big and full, and it's I'm definitely not saying it's muddy, but it has a lot of those muddy frequencies, but it's perfect because this is going to sound huge on small speakers. I'm just listening on NS10s here, and the low end sounds absolutely massive. And it almost sounds like you could kind of go in there and carve out, you know, a little bit of those low mid frequencies in the kick and the bass, just to almost kind of clean up the mix a little bit. But I think that would totally be the wrong move. I actually love how there's a lot of kind of low mid energy in there that's really blending and mixing together, and you need to do that. I think a lot of people carve out their low end of their kick and bass like way too much, and so things just sound too separate, and you don't have that buildup of energy that makes the mix sound really huge. So yeah, I absolutely love that range. Let's check that out. Kind of this range there, 1 to 200. A lot of people would mix it to sound a little more like this. It's not as good. Okay, looks like we have a totally different section in the middle here. Wildfire. Interesting, like super stripped back, quiet, organic. You got some saxophone coming in there, but then also some electronic stuff. Oh man, the room sounds so good. I want to check out how much sub is in this mix. The Yeah, so there's the right amount of sub frequencies down there below, 100 hertz. But the mix still sounds huge, even if we filter out some of those like you heard. And that is what you need to do if you want your mix to sound huge and translate in the car and sound good on earbuds and everywhere. You can't just try and get those really low 50, 60 hertz frequencies to sound big. You've got to get it to sound big in the like 100 to 200 to 300 range, which I already talked about here. So absolutely awesome job by Nolly here. Nice natural sounding string part at the end here. It's a nice contrast compared to, like, if you look at the frequency response here, lots of top end, kind of above 5K. You got to boost that. That's not like natural, but this sounds like a really natural string section in that there's not an overhyped top end. I think this is an awesome mix. Amazing job by Nolly. The drums sound very intense and incredible while still sounding like a real drum kit. Bass is super powerful. I love how you can hear that grind in different spots. The guitars are huge. The vocals are just right. I think he totally nailed it. This could definitely belong in your reference mix playlist. So hey, if you've got other mixes you think I should review on this channel, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see another one of my mix reviews, check it out here.